Hello, welcome to All About Energy. I'm Saba Rob. Today, I have a lovely guest, Miss Phoenix, who will be talking about her experience in quantum healing hypnosis. I recently had the wonderful opportunity with doing a session on her. She went into hypnosis, and I want to bring her on as a guest to talk a little bit about her experience. Welcome, Phoenix. How are you?
Great, great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's so lovely to connect with you after your session. Your session definitely has been a really fun one, and we'll explain to our listeners as to why. First of all, I just wanted to point out we are definitely going to be doing this as an audio interview. Um, and yeah, let's get started. So, Phoenix, let's talk about the reason why you booked a session. What was your intention with your session?
Well, I had heard about QHHT and I read a lot of Dolores Cannon's books, and I had just really wanted to do one for a very long time. But having said that, I'm going through a really difficult time in my life. I'm a medical student trying to figure out my future. And in my third semester of school, second year medical student, my husband asked for a divorce. And so, I just felt like my whole life was falling apart. Nothing was making sense. And I thought, you know what, on my break, I am going to do one of these sessions and I am going to figure out what is going on from the spiritual perspective. Is this some sort of karmic thing I'm dealing with? And so, yeah, I just thought, you know what, it's now or never. And I'll just book one. And so that's what I did. I booked a session with you.
Oh, amazing. And I knew right when I spoke with you, I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. All of my sessions really are. And I just have to say, it was really fun meeting with you. And so let's start from the beginning. How was your interview process? Because guys, those of you that are listening, the session's broken into about three parts. And so the beginning part is where Phoenix talks a little bit about herself and we get to know one another. So how was that portion?
Okay, so the interview process was really simple and it was informal. And you have just created such a nice little space there, and you're so non-judgmental. So I felt very comfortable opening up to you, and you said that was the point of the interview, was to just be able to open up, because you said that the more a person opens up, the more we can actually get out of the hypnosis session. So we talked about my spiritual journey, and from coming from a very strict Christian upbringing to this awakening that I had. And you shared your life too, and some of the things you went through. That so that made me very comfortable. And then we read through my questions and we discussed each of them. I was afraid my questions were too basic or maybe a little ridiculous in nature, but you put my mind at ease and you gave me so much positive feedback that I really felt comfortable. And this was great because after the interview, I felt like I could safely relax, which I think is key in reaching the theta state. You really have to be comfortable to be able to do that.
Yeah, thank you for
So,
sharing that. For those listening, it is so important when you go in for your session to be really comfortable, to allow the consciousness to feel comfortable so that you can access those really deep states of theta. So you really said it perfectly. Thank you for that. Also, I recall your session, you went right into theta. Just, I mean, it was beautifully done how you just let go. Any helpful advice on how you got there? What can you share with the listeners on how you did it?
well, see, that's so funny you say that, because in my mind, I was struggling to get there. Um, but what I did, well, let me say this. At first, it was difficult. I think my analytical mind would not shut off. And it seemed the more I concentrated on letting go, the more difficult it became to let go, which, is crazy because it's just this cycle. And so I was very frustrated with myself. So I just started talking to myself because I drove 4 hours. So I was like, "Gosh, this is, you can't waste, can't waste your time." Um, so I just told myself to actively participate in your direction. So when you, for example, you said to go to a peaceful place. Well, I went to a serene beach scene. So in my mind, I tried to imagine what the sand felt like when you actually feel it with my mind, and what the birds flying overhead, what they sounded like, and what the salty air smelled like and tasted like. And then at one point I felt like I was dozing off, and I got like that hypnagogic jerk where you're just like your body jerks like between that sleep and wake. And that jolted me a little bit. And so then I just allowed myself to ease back into imagining and feeling the things you were describing. And so the best thing that I can compare it to, and hopefully some of your listeners can relate to this, is if you're like a painter or a sculptor or an athlete or a musician. And for me, being in medical school, it's when I study, it's like this place you go to um, where you just kind of, I think it's called flow state. And so you just kind of allow yourself to go there, and you're present, but you're not really present. All your problems are gone and your concerns disappear and the mental chatter turns off.
Mhm.
And you just kind of go into the state. And like when I'm studying, hours can go by and I'm present, but all the mental chatter is gone. And and it's really kind of where we can really get into something, and you're not analyzing every detail. And that's just kind of where I allowed myself to go. So I don't know if that helps anyone, but it's kind of like that, trying to get into that flow state.
Yeah, there's that little battle that can happen, and I talk about that, in the beginning in the interview. So thank you for bringing that up because it's that moment you got to turn that corner, and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, hold on a minute, it's getting
Hmm.
out of control, or I can let go,
Yeah.
just
It's
really letting go.
it's almost like you're falling asleep, but your body won't fall asleep. I was afraid I would fall asleep because when I do those guided meditations online, I fall asleep every time. And I'm like, dang it, why can't so I was so afraid I would fall asleep, but I didn't. So
Yeah, you did wonderful. You went right in. So now let's follow up on so you were at your happy place and you were at a beach. And then
mhm,
from there we start to go into shortly after into the portion where the past life is. And do you
mhm.
remember anything there, anything that you care to share on that portion?
Actually getting into the past life, or well, I think I started seeing some other images, and I really analytically questioned, is this what I'm supposed to be seeing? And I think that you recognize that, so you just kind of were talking me through it, and we didn't really go into that life. I don't know if I was seeing a different life, but then I kind of reached this place where I saw a an image of a knight's helmet sitting on this dark table. And I don't know why, but you latched onto that and just began asking me questions about that. And so for me, what was really strange is, before the session, I thought I was going to see like a movie in my mind that would be like a story, and I'd just be watching it. I don't know why I thought it would be like that. But for me, I would just see these simple images, or a word would flash in my mind. I didn't see like a movie like I was thinking I would. Um, and so the image would evoke just this pure raw emotion would just start coming out of me, and I just start crying or laughing. So that was interesting.
Right. And so, yeah, that's amazing that you're sharing that because everyone's interpretation and how they go into the story can be a simple image, like with yours and the night helmet. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, we're gonna
Hmm.
going with this because I just knew that we really needed to really get that information on why are you
Hmm.
seeing this night helmet. So yes, for those listening, it may not be like a movie where you're seeing the
Right.
entire image right when you enter. There may be an emotion that gets you right into it. There
Hmm.
may be a picture or a thought that gets you in there. And then once you open that door, okay, and you really let go because you still want to analyze and process and like, am I doing this right? What am I doing? You
Hmm.
let go, and what happens next?
I just began crying. And what's interesting about my hypnosis, and I don't know if this is what everybody feels, but my Phoenix me, I was standing kind of to the side, like as an observer, and I could observe all of this emotion coming out of me. It was very interesting. So I was crying intensely after I saw this helmet, and I felt emotions that were so intense. It was as if that was happening to me. So when I saw this helmet, all of a sudden I felt defeat. I knew that I was this honorable, loyal man. I was a man. And I knew that I was being removed from a place of power. And I was just devastated. And I could not stop crying because I felt so indebted to these people. Like, what would they do without me? What was going to happen to them if I died? And it was really interesting.
Yeah. You were
So I didn't see a lot of pictures. I just felt a lot. Yeah.
right. So you felt your story.
I felt my story. I didn't see my story, which is so interesting.
Right. So you felt the story and you went with it. And
hmm
I remember, yep, you had a lot of emotion immediately. And that's when you were describing what you were feeling because you felt the life.
I felt the life.
Yeah.
I definitely felt like I was this man and I was just being removed. And I couldn't deal with that because that's not what was supposed to happen in my mind. So,
And so, what we were discovering through questions that I was asking and the answers that you were giving was there was a man, he was being removed in power.
hmm
Um, and you kept saying, my people, I,
hmm
I have to be here for my people or I have to protect them.
hmm yeah.
Yeah.
And you said, where are you? And I thought, well, I have no idea where I am, but I saw a word and it was this old, like scrolly looking letters and it said Scotland. And I said, Scotland, I'm in Scotland. And I just knew right then, yes, I'm a Scottish king.
Right.
And these are my people. And I have lived my entire life for these people. And what are they going to do without me? I mean, that was really the feeling I had, almost like a parent, but a parent over a whole nation. It was intense.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you did really well with processing the emotions and releasing. Very important.
hmm
Really
Oh,
release.
okay.
So
Yeah.
you did so well, just honoring that and releasing and letting go and just kind of processing that. And then from there, you even mentioned who was the person removing you. We started digging deeper into that past life as to who was removing this man from power. And you gave the name right away. Very important because as we go through this interview, we'll explain why it was important. So we gathered as much information as we can, but what was the overall theme? Because I like to ask, and that's part of what QHHT we do, is to ask like, what lessons did you learn from that life as you're stepping on the other side of it? Or did
So I think my higher self said that I had learned defeat. I learned how to be honorable and how to give myself to a greater cause, even if it meant in the end I would face such a demise. And that was the kind of the lesson that I learned from that life.
right, right. It seemed to be the overall theme of,
hmm
and so from there, um, there was a body scan, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And
One more thing I did see though was, remember, I saw the boy. Do you remember that part?
oh yes.
Should I talk about that or no?
Yeah, that was very interesting because yeah, I would love to hear that because then there was that end part where the cubes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, so I think that's important. Yep.
Okay, so I didn't really realize that I had died. Like, because I'm not seeing a movie, I'm just seeing feeling these emotions. But one second. Sorry.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna
Um,
ask one.
no, I had passed on.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so I didn't know that I had passed on, but I did see an image of this golden man. But he had like long hair and robes and something tied around his waist. And I just knew it was me. And I was like floating above Scotland and possibly Ireland. And I just couldn't let go. I couldn't go away. I just felt still that I still so connected to that country. And I saw a young man and I just broke. I don't know if you remember that. I started crying so hard and I was like, oh, the
Right.
boy. And he was being put on the throne. And I was just so upset because in my mind, he was my son and he was spoiled and he had no leadership qualities and he had surrounded himself by just, fake people. And I was desperate to get through to him. And I, at one point, remember trying to pour myself into him. But I had this image of my spirit just running down him, like down his exterior as oil. And that's when I think I realized that, I need to let go. And I began to ascend to the light. Like you said, I kind of followed your lead and you said, ascend to the light. And I did. And when once I got there, wherever there is, it was like a painting, a cubist style painting where all the cubes fit together and it was this beautiful architecture. And I just kind of realized that everything fit together and everything would fit together. And it gave me a sort of peace. And so that's kind of where I ended with that life
Right. It
was,
was beautiful, by the way, when you said, "Oh my gosh, everything makes sense. It
yeah,
all fit together."
it all fit together, even though on
Like,
earth it just seemed ridiculous. Like this wasn't supposed to be like this. I think once you zoom out, and maybe those were all different lives.
mm,
Maybe each component was a different life and they all fit together. I don't know. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
It
what
was
I saw.
it was a beautiful moment because it was almost like this there was so much tension in this life and the process. And then when you were like, it all fits
Yeah.
there. And it was just like,
Yeah.
ah,
It
okay.
just seems so unfair, so unjust. And it's like for a just person to end that way, just, I don't know. I was having a hard time dealing with that, the
Right.
idea of that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was great. Now how do you feel actually let's go back to your body scan. I almost skipped them.
Oh, the body scan. Yeah. Okay. So that was interesting because I felt absolutely nothing. So the observer me, again, like I was talking about earlier,
Huh?
thought, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? you know, I'm not feeling anything. So I thought, well, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe other higher selves or um, what do you call it?
SCs or
SC, maybe other SCs
yeah.
do these body scans, but clearly mine's not. I'm not feeling anything. But do you want me to tell you what happened afterwards?
Yeah. So let's
Okay.
well, so you just kind of went with the flow as far as the SC went. Do you remember if we went through questions? How did that go? How did that feel? Um, do you remember the questions that we asked? I mean, we don't have to go into the questions, but just kind of like how did it feel answering them or when that process was happening?
I really felt like an observer and the SC was just talking. Like
Okay.
words were literally coming out of my mouth and I was like standing to the side just watching this whole thing going, this is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just going, okay.
hmm I was kind of like, whoa, not what I was expecting. Like I could literally think like that. Um,
Yeah, with the
so
profound answers that you had.
yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
So
Okay. And so then you and I have a conversation later, like a day or two later, and you're like, Saba, so I don't know if this is normal, but I researched a little bit about this person
mhm.
and they actually exist.
Yeah, that was shocking. Um, I'm like dumbfounded
I just
because a part of me thinks like, was this a, I mean, of course I'm questioning everything. I'm like, maybe this was a life of just someone I'm supposed to learn from, or was this actually my past life? Um, of course, I'm having all these thoughts, but I did look up Henry, which was the I said England killed me in my past life regression. I said England killed me, and you said who, and I said Henry. Henry killed me. So I just kind of Googled that, did a little historical research, and I did find King Henry VIII did have, was involved in a battle with the King of Scotland, and he did remove him from power. His son did become king, and he was quite a spoiled boy, young man who did kind of surround himself with you know yes men and that sort of thing. But there
But
was a king of
you didn't know
Scotland, and he,
before.
yeah, I didn't know this. He did have long hair, and he did wear this thing around his waist, which I did see, which was he wore a chain around his waist, to pay
Mm.
penance for the death of his father. I don't know. I mean, that could be it. It was very
Well,
interesting to find that information. And the other interesting part is my favorite name of all times is the name of that king. If I always said if I were a man, that's the name I would want. I wanted to name my son that.
wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, what I really love about this is the chain that you said that you wore. I
Mhm.
remember in the past life when you were describing it, you're like, I'm wearing this chain. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Explain why. And then you were able to check that out. And I thought, well, Phoenix, not everyone gets a life that they can look up.
Right. And the
And
hair, he had long hair. And I didn't know that men had long hair in that age. I thought that was shorter. So when I saw pictures, I thought, my goodness, I mean, this is so interesting. All the details are lining up. So yeah,
wow.
it
And
was cool.
so now the similarities, if we talk about the similarities that you have as far as you're interested in medicine.
Yeah.
Okay. So you found out some interesting information about this life.
I did. Now, this king wanted to be a surgeon, and I've always wanted to be a surgeon. Um, he would actually go pull teeth and then pay his his patients for letting them. He's like, oh, he set up
Wait, your teeth.
a call. Yeah, he set up one of the first universities in Scotland for surgery and medicine. He was very interested in medicine and the arts. And I thought that was interesting because I've always been drawn to that as well. And that's just interesting. I mean, I don't know. Does it mean something? I don't know. I thought that was interesting though.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Also, let's see. Oh, we did skip over a little part. Your voice, when your subconscious was speaking, did you find any differences in the everyday Phoenix way of talking or anything? Or did it sound very similar?
No, my SC was something else. My SC my SC was very direct, very to the point, and quite frankly, my SC seemed to be annoyed with me, and I don't know if I call it a she or a he. I don't know if it has a gender, but my SC laughed a lot, but kind of in the kind of like, oh my gosh, she annoys me kind of way. Like, wow, I had no idea. So yeah, I was not expecting that. So yeah.
Yeah, it was they will speak with you in the way that at that time in your life it will suit you best.
Okay, yeah, it was interesting.
Okay. And did you recognize your SC like when you were hearing the wisdom where you're like this kind of sounds familiar or like okay, hang on. There any
No, I
it,
didn't recognize it, which was interesting. So maybe I am that hard-headed that I don't listen. Like my SC said, she's so hard-headed, she doesn't listen. And maybe I just need to listen a little more and then I will recognize. So,
So yeah, that's the fun thing is that sometimes there is a little bit of recognition of like, oh, this
mhm.
kind of sounded like me, and sometimes there isn't. I wouldn't say that one particularly will say that you're more connected or you're more
Oh, okay.
more, but sometimes it is a little familiar. So when I go in, sometimes my SC sounds really connected to me, like really me. And sometimes it's like a Russian accent and completely different
Oh,
personality.
okay.
Like,
Wow.
so it just depends. Sometimes, whatever I need to hear at that time. Um, any wisdom that your higher self shared with you that you found really stood out, or anything that you care to share that your
Well, yeah, yeah. My SC explained that I did not want to incarnate on this planet. Do you remember? Um,
yes.
my SC was just like, I did not want to come here. I came here because of her. And you said, who is her? And I said, my mother. She wanted a baby, and I agreed to come here because I love her. And I was like, I do not want to be here. It was interesting. Um,
Wow, I do recall that. You were like, and I said,
yeah.
"Was this an agreement that you guys had?" You're like, "Yes."
Yes.
I said,
I
"What?
said, like,
What?"
yeah, like humans are so frail. And I was like, I don't want to be here. It was interesting. But my SC did say that, I'm not defeated, that I'm victorious, and I need to focus on that. And that once I realize that everything will work out and everything will fit together, and makes me think of that painting again, um, of the cubist painting. But that I need to let go of defeat and take charge of my life. That was one of the main things that was said. And another interesting thing that came out, and this might be interesting to someone who's going through a divorce, is said my contract with my husband is over, and it has been for a very long time. Now, this wisdom was important to me because I've dealt with so much guilt due to my upbringing in my religion. My family really enforced in me that you don't divorce and that you make it work till death do you part. And so when my SC said the point of our marriage was to have our children and to cut karmic connections, and that I'm no longer bound to this contract. So I'm still processing that bit of information, but that was kind of freeing.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
beautiful.
might help some of your listeners. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do recall it saying that, "Oh yeah, the contract's over."
Hmm.
They fulfilled their contract, and it was like,
Right. So you can actually, fulfill the bit you need to do, and there's really nothing else for you to do with this person. So you just forgive and let go and move on. And you both, and Dolores Cannon is known for saying that. I did hear one of her um, something on YouTube where she said, we fulfilled our contract. Let's just tear it up and move on, forgive. And
right,
so, yeah.
right, very profound. So also there was a problem with your jaw.
Hmm.
And so when we were doing the body scan, that was, and I also just found out that we're having popping with your jaw.
Yeah, I had been dealing with TMJ, and just, what I do is I clench my jaw when I sleep, and it's so bad. I've always had headaches, and I get injections to, loosen the muscles, and my jaw pops and clicks. I'm always going, to the chiropractor for that, and they fix it, and then it starts doing it a few months later. Well, lately, due to the stress that I'm under from, school and the divorce and everything, I mean, it's intensified so badly that the day I came down to see you, I couldn't even chew hard food. It was so painful, but I didn't say anything to you about it.
Right.
I just said, my jaw, I'm having some problems with my jaw. And so you said, can you check her jaw when we're doing the body scan? And that's when I thought, well, I'm not feeling anything, so nothing's going to happen for me. But my jaw is completely healed.
Wow.
It
Um,
didn't happen right then. That's what the interesting thing is. It happened over a few days. And then I was just studying the day. And usually if I try to chew gum, it'll start popping. I'm like, I shouldn't chew gum. And I'm like, wait, my jaw is like, doesn't even pop. It doesn't click. I'm not in pain. I can shut my mouth. It was incredible. And then I was like, what's that? Maybe the body scan did work.
yeah,
So I
that's
was like,
something.
wow, that's incredible.
Right. That's the fun thing about the body scan is that, like we were discussing earlier, is that you can just connect in. There doesn't have to be that fireworks feeling of like my body's, shaking, it could
Yeah,
be that you've gone in, you've trusted of like, okay, well, I guess it's not for me, but I don't know, and then days later, you're like, wait a minute,
exactly.
it's gone.
I mean, it's incredible. I didn't feel a thing. I literally thought, "Oh, this must happen for those lucky people, but not me." So, yeah.
You're those lucky people. All right. So thank you so much for jumping on here and sharing your experience. Um, any advice for people who are looking and thinking about it? Anything that you can share with them on the process or how to calm their nerves or anything before we part?
Oh, no, I just think it's definitely worth it. I'm so glad that I made the investment in doing this because how much fun did I have like researching this person in Scotland? It was just, and hopefully you get a person that you can research, but if you don't, it's just as fun. Now, you get questions answered, you get to meet your subconscious. I just think it's so worth it. Just go in and don't have any expectations because it's going to blow your mind. It really is. And like I said, I had all these expectations. I was going to see a movie in my mind. I was probably going to be some woman in the 20s, and here, I was a man, and in a country I had never even thought about or visited, or so it was very interesting. I just think just go in with an open mind and an open heart, and I think it's worth the money. It really is.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so
Hmm.
much, Phoenix, for your time.
Hmm.
And those of you that are interested in booking a session, my information will be on the bottom. And thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you.